Very interesting news story over at the Daily Beast from Swin and Lachlan, two great reporters who we've had here on the show. Let's throw up their story there on the screen. They say Trump allies fear he's ditched the working class for boaters and housewives. A headline after my own heart. Appears they've been watching Rising. But what's most important, actually, are some of the deep kind of the reporting within this piece. I wanted to read you guys some quotes. So this is the most important one in my view. Quote, two people working on Trump's re-election effort told the Daily Beast they have directly implored the president in recent weeks to pivot back to the kind of populism that won him the presidency the first time. Trump has apparently demurred. He said, quote, I've already been doing that. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay.
So obviously some of the Trump people who are quoted in the story or, were pushing back against this narrative. Here's my personal favorite. They say the Trump campaign released a web ad attacking Joe Biden on NAFTA Monday. And this is what I said. I said, look, I follow this stuff for a living. This is my job. Did you see that ad?
No.
I didn't see that ad.
I did see an Obamagate ad. I did
That's
see
right.
that one.
I've seen an Obama, apparently, which I'm in, which is hilarious. But I didn't see the NAFTA ad. And on Monday, it was the exact same day that Trump gave the speech about how Biden is a Trojan horse for socialism.
Right.
So because they can point to this, what they always do. They're like, well, we had a web ad. I'm like, yeah, you have a web ad with like 10 grand of advertising behind it. When Trump opens his mouth, if it's incongruent with the web ad does not matter.
Irrelevant.
Ads have nothing to do with the main theme of the campaign. And just the final thing, which really pissed me off, was this GOP aide, and tell you how smart they are, who was quoted in here, and they said, look, we've been trying to do this whole populism thing, but all the news is about the pandemic right now. And Trump is doing stuff like visiting factories for PPE. Now, who wants to tell me whether populism intersects with industrial production of critical medical supplies? These are the stupidest people on the planet. Whoever that person is should be fired, should have nothing to do. And I guarantee you they're probably like some high-level person who's in the campaign. But I think they nailed it. I think that at least it is semi-comforting to me that there are a few people who apparently can see what the hell is going on. But clearly they're not the ones who are winning within the campaign. And it's depressing because now all we get is this stupid voting nonsense.
I don't know. I mean, they're pretty stupid. The Democrats are also pretty stupid. I just look at all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, people are losing their homes and their jobs and their health care. And all you have to say is, I'm going to make sure you still have a house and a job and health care. Right. That's it. Mm-hmm. How is it that no one is saying that? No one. I mean, I'm watching the DNC and like, we're talking about things that happened in the Violence Against Women Act in the 90s. What are you doing? They're over here talking about boats and housewives. It's like, what world are you living in? But you know why it is. It's because we showed that chart of the top income people are doing fine. And those are the people that
actually have more money.
Yeah,
their
they're
wealth
fine.
went up.
They're doing, especially the top, they've made billions. They're doing great. Stock market all-time high. So they have the political class in D.C., whether it's the Republicans or whether it's the Democrats, has zero connectivity with the vast majority of Americans. It is insane to me. Either one of these pathetic candidates could be winning by 20 points now.
I couldn't agree
if
more.
they just actually focused on the things that people are struggling with during this unprecedented crisis.
So Trump is more frustrating to me because he actually did it. Right? It's like he did it once. Biden is Biden. Like, he ain't going to change.
Right.
But at this, it's like with Trump, he actually ran a great campaign in 2016. I mean, you can go watch my monologue yesterday. I put his 2016 speech right up against his speech 4 years apart to the day in Wisconsin, both states. One was talking about special interests against hedge funds. Today is Biden is a Trojan horse for socialism. He's been asked 3 separate times what he was going to do if he becomes president. All he's been able to come up with so far was an interview with Maria Bartiromo where he says he's going to cut the capital gains tax. And his new thing is that he's going to cut the payroll tax forever. And so it was like, okay. And once again, he can't get payroll tax cut.
Social Security, by the way.
Which is the one that funds Social Security. And I'm totally against that because payroll taxes are actually a phenomenal invention. They're one of the only things that scales with income and so much more. And it's the easiest way to get an entire society to buy into a program.
Yes.
All of that being said, more is that This is ludicrous. Nobody votes on payroll tax cut. Nobody votes on capital gain. Well, a few people do, and they're the ones who cut all the checks. And I think that is ultimately what the whole problem is. And it's funny because even never Trump Republicans understand this dynamic. A guy named Tim Miller, who is Lincoln Project, annoying, worked for Jeb. Even he was like, you know what's weird? He's like, Trump, his entire career, has never been a free market orthodoxy guy. And he's like, and he chose the worst moment in political history to actually listen to them, like Larry Kudlow.
Yeah.
There's no indication. Trump has been railing against trade and so much more for 40 years. And yet he abandoned his instincts and has gone with Steve Moore, Larry Kudlow, all these other fools who are running his campaign right now in favor of Trojan horse for socialism. And you know, good luck, because I don't think it's going to work.
I saw Peter Navarro out, I don't know, it was yesterday or day before or whatever.
He's the only one who gets it.
Well, but he's making this like very clunky, ham-handed pitch to Birdie Bros. He was like, I feel so bad for the Birdie Bros, and you can come right over here. And it's like, how does that square with your whole, you know, Venezuela, and he's a Trojan horse for socialism, and Crazy Birdie's taking over the party, whatever. Like, you have zero to say to anyone on the left at this point. And that wasn't the case last time around. Last time around, Trump's innovation was running to Hillary's left on a few critical economic issues.
Entitlement programs ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about defunding the payroll tax forever, which funds Social Security. I mean, and of course, this political malpractice that Democrats aren't screaming about that left and right.
Have you heard that at the DNC? I haven't heard it once.
Not once. Yeah. And on the other hand, it's also political malpractice that Trump and co. aren't out there replaying on a loop Joe Biden saying he wants to cut Social Security, as came out in the primary ad, but just overall, you can't make sense of any of this outside of they are so stuck in a class bubble that they literally cannot see what is going on before their very eyes in this country.
I think that's right.
And so, you know, Trump has gone out and he's running on the big tax cut that he passed during his administration as if that's popular, as if that's what people want.
It's dramatically unpopular.
And deregulation. Like, what family struggling to put food on the table right now is like, what I really need is some like vague promise of deregulation. That's the thing that's really going to keep me whole, body and soul together right now. That person does not exist. And so it makes me feel insane to watch the political dialogue here and realize these are the only two options available, and that there is zero hope that either one of them is going to get it and actually do anything meaningful if they get into the office.
This is what I said in response to this. I was like, we have not lived in a political moment more amenable to national populism in particular that Trump ran on in 2016 in 100 years. And they're not doing it. The Democrats aren't doing it. We were talking about this earlier. We didn't hear any class-based rhetoric at the DNC in the last couple of days. Barack Obama, who ran on GM is alive, what was his whole pitch last night? And I'll talk about this in my radar. It was like, it was like democracy, norms. And I saw actually a great take, even from liberal journalists who were like, you know, the problem with Obama's rhetoric is 50% of the country does not agree with him in terms of the whole norms thing. Mm-hmm. All they really care about is getting food on their table and not losing their job. And it's like you said, all anybody needs to say here, that's it, is you will have a job, you will not be kicked out of your house, and you will be taken care of throughout this pandemic. Yeah. And we will reemerge from this stronger than ever.
You're going to have
you put that at the end.
Healthcare, a job, and a home. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what people want to hear. That's it. And yet, none of the geniuses here can seem to figure that out.
Instead, this is what they get.
And I believe there's much more enthusiasm now than there was even in 2016. We have a silent majority, the likes of which nobody has seen. I just looked, there are thousands of boats in lakes, rivers, and oceans, thousands and thousands of boats. It's called Voters for Trump, Voters for Trump Pence. There's signs all over. Some of the boats have 10 flags on them. They're incredible. There are thousands. We did nothing to do this. This is just generic. It just happened.
It's just generic.
Yes.
The 10. I love the 10 flags part. Like, that's really the measure, is how many flags you put on your boat in support of your chosen candidate.
Let's see how it works out in November. All right.
We're rising for you after this.